Well, you look at that. They poured asphalt on top of wood.
And that's just not the way you should build a bridge for cars.
Wood slats on top of steel girders that are not looking so good.
Engineering was different back in 1920. I guess I'm not surprised that it's closed, but I'm more surprised that one just like it is still open to traffic. And it carries Route 66.
People in Carthage call this the Wee Bridge because back when they built this about 100 years ago, it needed a little more vertical climb to get over the railroad. So it goes really steep up and then steep back down. Gives you that sense of weightlessness. Whee! I have no qualification to judge what condition this bridge is in, but I'm still surprised you could build a bridge for cars out of wood at all.
Missouri's Department of Transportation inspect this bridge every 2 years to make sure it's safe, at least for lightweight vehicles.
So now the pedestrian pathway here is closed. I can't go up there and walk on that. As you can see from overhead, probably good I'm not trying to walk on that. If we're up to the city of Carthage, they'd tear this bridge down today, put it at street level, and just have crossing gates come down.
But when they asked the Missouri and Northern Arkansas Railroad Company,
No, we don't want another place where cars can run the gate and get hit by a train.
so for now, the Wee Bridge stays open because nobody wants to be the one to close Route 66 down, again.
Too much longer, I'm going to start singing about being stuck in second gear.
And that was the idea. Build a downtown you wanted to stick around. But to do it, they shut down Route 66 to all cars, just 1 block away from the birthplace of Route 66.
It's right there in that parking lot.
As America's most famous road celebrates its 100th birthday.
This is the world I knew and grew up in.
The engineering you don't see in most Route 66 videos.
What do you mean ends?
Like dead downtowns.
And why they don't build stuff like this anymore.
And an entire Route 66 state that everyone forgets about.
97, 98, 99.
Whose love for Route 66 is not dead at all.
Imagine if all the freeway bridges we built now looked like that.
Exactly 1 century ago, America was building roads like crazy.
You have this new national highway network and people are fighting over the good numbers.
And with hundreds of new highways, every state wanted that nice, clean multiple of 10, including this one.
Chicago to California? That sounds like a major route. It deserves a nice round number like US 60.
These 2 state highway officials certainly thought so, and they were furious when they found out Kentucky's governor had already called dibs. The federal government was going to stick them with US 62.
Got thinking, if we're not going to win this fight, 66 is still available. That actually sounds kind of big and important.
So from the Colonial Hotel on the night of April 30th, 1926, they told the feds.
Somewhere here in this parking lot was probably the hotel lobby where they were able to send the telegram, the exact text of which says, regarding Chicago-Los Angeles Road, if California, Arizona, New Mexico, and Illinois will accept 66 instead of 60, we're inclined to agree to this change. We prefer 66 to 62. And off it went to D.C.
If Washington had known the monster they were about to create, they might have just said yes to US 60. But that's okay.
It rolls off the tongue, 66.
But there's a little irony that the self-proclaimed birthplace of Route 66 would shut the road down to cars entirely.
100 years before US 66, a guy donated 50 of his acres here for a new county seat.
But this block doesn't line up with any other blocks.
And you can see it on the map, this offset city square, eerily similar to Carlinville, Illinois.
I was there 2 videos ago.
Even the big rig trucks drive through here.
Same traffic looping around, same square roundabout.
But I can't find anything that connects the two.
After Springfield survived the Civil War and made some bad mistakes during Reconstruction.
Around 1900, there was a big concrete circle.
Even the electric streetcar drove around it. In 1913, the town lost $1 million worth of buildings, but got $1 million worth of cars, which meant the end of the big circle.
They ripped all of that out, paved it for parking, sliced it into 4 pie slices. They called it the pie.
And after 1926, US 66 went right down the middle.
Then in the 1970s, they tore the pie out and put in this that they called the pit, because it steps down.
A big improvement over just parking lots.
They had a good theory in the 80s of why not make that just for pedestrians, channel the cars this way over to the next city block over on a one-way road with 2 lanes on it.
Build a mirror image of it, and it leaves you with a pedestrian island in the middle. But it killed downtown business in 2 years.
You end up with the one-way road effect where people zip around here and they go, sweet, 2 lanes, all the same direction. You know what that reminds me of? A freeway.
Making it easy to speed past all the businesses. It took a full decade to push that undo button. But in the 80s and 90s, they did. The remnants of the old one-ways are mostly gone. This one they turned into parking for the Route 66 monument. And historic 66, once again, runs right through the square, or around it.
But you know what the tourists don't show up for? Regular city street bridges like this one over Jordan Creek that have been doing their job since 1934 and not a single tourist in sight. Except for me. By the way, if you come to check out this bridge, be careful. It's like a cliff.
An overpass like this is never going to make it onto a postcard. But in the 1930s, bridges like these put men back to work as the country tried to tie itself together better.
Now, if you think this little underappreciated guy's cool, that railroad bridge is made out of wood.
And I know nothing about rail bridges. I do know this one looks a whole lot better than the Wee Bridge.
Don't tell the college kids it's Bridge 420. They'll come steal the plaque.
Route 66 Easter eggs that locals don't notice, and tourists just fly right on by. Like this forgotten stretch of Route 66.
Because like this dead-end section that's a quarter-mile long, it's only here because they rerouted the highway around it.
Probably so cars getting on and off the freeway don't have to tangle with so many driveways. But it orphans part of the original highway. Only the top 1% of Route 66 nerds would even notice or care.
So what, you're going to pull off and drive this?
Rejoining the tourists as we head west, you hit the next magnet for regular, normal people.
Everybody keeps stopping at this same tourist trap.
A family spent decades bringing the gay Parita gas station back to life. And so it certainly earns every camera that points at it. So if you want to know more, go watch one of their videos.
I'm going to skip it. We're going to go find like a really mundane bridge.
Like this triple pony truss over Turnback Creek. Technically 3 years older than Route 66. Still open to cars. One lane though. And not looking too bad for something that's over a century old. Last video we talked about the trouble cities and counties go to save old bridges. But old intersections, they're not worth it.
Never let authenticity get in the way of safety. So Route 66 is supposed to go straight across this way.
Ironically crossing a newer version of Route 66.
It hits the other street at a weird skewed angle, and that's not safe because you're sitting there at the stop sign and having to turn like this to see if a car's coming.
Acute angles can be deadly because you can't see what's coming. The steeper the angle, the higher the crash rate gets.
You want the two streets to meet up at 90 degrees, so they did that. They took 66, dragged it clear over here, made it turn a corner, so it lines up now.
The route might not be truly authentic anymore, but for Missouri drivers who use this all the time, it's much safer.
I like this a lot. I'm not having to go like this. Straightening out the intersection, that saves lives.
Still to come.
I've never seen anything quite like this. Louvers on a stop sign.
This video is not sponsored by Park is Back.
Get tokens. You know what? Don't let credits run out.
Thanks to generative AI, not even death can take away your favorite musician.
I believe AI is the future. Teach them well and let them lead the world.
Now, that's what I call music.
Oh, you're hallucinating, baby. Hallucinating, baby.
Out
Do it
now.
all the time.
I think this is the world's shortest bypass.
There's not a lot to Phelps, Missouri. Early on, Route 66 ran right past the schoolhouse door. By 1955, traffic outgrew the old highway, so Missouri spent millions building a new, wider US 66 just south of the old one. That pushed high-speed traffic away from buildings on the north side of the street, but that wiped out pretty much every building on the south side of the old highway, which now serves as a tight frontage road. Probably why the stop sign looks so weird here.
I've never seen anything quite like this. Louvers on a stop sign, my guess is so that only people on the bypass frontage road here can see it, and people on the main highway aren't slamming on their brakes from 65 miles an hour in the dark.
The 1955 project rebuilt over 200 miles of highway across 37 counties in Missouri. From here to Joplin, the old road keeps popping up north of the new one. Most people, it looks like nothing at all.
More original Route 66 concrete. And what are they doing with it? They're storing semi-truck trailers.
Since leaving Chicago, this keeps coming up. When the state focuses attention on their new highway, the old Route 66 gets handed off to towns and counties that don't have a lot of money. They just need it to work good enough.
A lot of old water infrastructure stuff there that's maybe as old as Route 66, but you're never going to see a tourist stop to look at that.
Today's interstate highways grab a line and keep following it. U.S. highways, those are stitched together with streets that are already there, zigzagging from one end of town to the other.
So to stay on 66, you have to make a left turn off the street that had been 66.
But don't tell poor Holbrook, Arizona. They think having to make a left-hand turn on Route 66 makes their town special.
That's not unique to just 66. All the U.S. highways had that problem. And it's something the interstate system set out to fix. You get on an interstate, that road, that slab of pavement, stays the interstate, even if you come to a town.
By the way, for chronological accuracy, Carthage here is where the Wee Bridge is. But just because Jasper County is struggling to figure out what to do to fix this, doesn't mean they can't fix a bridge.
I think this is the coolest thing I've seen so far. It looks like a historic 1920s Route 66 bridge. But then I got looking, the pavement's too nice, the bridge railing looks historic, but if you come over here and check out this plaque, 2016.
This one replaced an 18-foot wide bridge from 1922. It's now nearly twice as wide, so people on foot or on bike get their own space instead of sharing with cars. And the railing? Architects made a deliberate copy of the old bridge. As pretty as scenery is in this part of the state, this corner of Missouri recently had one dark day.
Well, if Illinois has been flat and Missouri's been hilly, then Joplin may as well be part of Kansas because it's pretty flat around here.
And the Wizard of Oz is not really funny in real life. In 2011, an EF5 tornado wiped out 7,000 homes in Joplin.
Well, you've seen the viral video of it raising the roof off the gym. When the tornado came through, it just wrecked this school. But a little piece of the legacy of the old school lives on.
On the south side of town, the tornado hit the hospital head on, which means losing probably the most important building during a disaster. And it was a complete teardown. Mercy Hospital donated the land to the city of Joplin, who built this memorial park with money from the federal government. Knowing that even a rare tornado could happen again, the new hospital is in a better location, with windows designed to handle 250-mile-an-hour winds. So when I saw poor Carterville, I thought, oh no, did the tornado hit them too? No.
You feel bad for a property owner like this, has a building too old and historic to demolish, but there aren't customers coming through here anymore because it's been bypassed several times, right?
This town was really hopping in the 1800s with all the lead mining, but after World War I, business dried up.
The inside of there is one of the worst looking buildings I've ever seen. It doesn't even have a roof anymore.
The town's been sitting out in the rain, slowly rotting away for a century. It's almost kind of a time capsule of how differently we built cities before there were cars.
Dadgummit, it's 1920 and Ma needs some ointments from the corner drugstore. So I'm walking from my house around the corner down here to the main street that's basically a mall, and the front door to the drugstore is right here where it's easy and convenient. So why did this go away? Well, once everybody had cars, I'd drive to the drugstore because it's faster, but I come to Main Street, there's no place to park my car because everybody else is parking their car. So the new stores that opened in the middle of the century had big parking lots, and then the store was behind the parking lot. And that's the way everything looks today, and why they don't build stuff like this anymore.
But just because you build a nice big parking lot doesn't mean it also can't be abandoned.
This is the world I knew and grew up in. The store far away from the street because we needed plenty of room to park all our cars. But even having a big parking lot like this doesn't guarantee shoppers are going to come to your store because this major street here got bypassed by the freeway too.
Still to come.
Finally, a state is numbering this Highway 66.
That didn't last long.
Ends? What do you mean ends?
Apparently biker bars do really exist.
That guy even has the eye patch.
Holy smokes.
There's a lot that you've sent this time, although all states going in the trash. And somebody shoved an entire book that I thought was about U.S. history, but it's all Bible verses. So. But up first here, a postcard. I got worried when I saw the Spokane stamp on there. Derek writes, this is a stretch of U.S. 10 in Washington State. Something to check out in the future. Postcard from Matt that says, keep on trucking. I bought a Prius. Knew I should have got that Ford Maverick. Ronan from Lincoln, Nebraska has all sorts of stuff in here. Motorcycle dude with long hair. Wants to know, where did US 6 get its number? I don't know.
But it sounds like it started off back east as a short single-digit New England highway, but America kept adding to it, and yeah, it starts to drop down south. By the time it ends in Bishop, California, the number 6 stops making sense.
Bob's letter has my logo on it, but more importantly, a SpongeBob stamp. Although I was kind of the generation that was more Rocco's Modern Life. And 2 notes, one saying that the Illinois Capitol is taller than the U.S. Capitol, and when he lived in Phoenix, he noticed all the freeways have geckos on them.
Though Arizona DOT correct that and say they're lizards created by a Colorado artist.
And finally, from Baton Rouge, Louisiana, Luke wants to know where the hats come from. I literally went to eBay and just put in interstate highway. And Luke commends the production value into each of the videos, which is made possible thanks to you. We have mere thousands of subscribers, but I can punch above our weight and act like we're a multi-million subscriber channel. Thanks to your support at patreon.com/RoadGuyRob. Oh, and Missouri 66. And then there's a new sign here for Kansas 66. Oh, okay.
It starts to feel like the border with the frontier. New, exciting, a little bit scary. Although, come on, how scary can a place with a Hot Wheels logo be?
I have a sidecar.
But here you discover the greatest find on all of Route 66. The trash company with a trash truck mailbox. And this old bridge that's been trashed.
Oof, and bridge number 1 as you drive into Kansas. It's not even really a bridge. It's more of a culvert. Its railing looks original, though.
State of Kansas, we can say, well, we can boast our whole route is unbroken. You can drive the old route all the way through the state, but it's only 13.2 miles, so it's...
Dale Oglesby champions the stretch of highway the rest of us kind of forget about.
There's a lot of Route 66 infrastructure still left in Kansas. Old box culverts, bridges, like this one.
A 200-foot viaduct built in 1922.
That's 3 years before anybody had a Route 66 in mind.
When I first came to Galena, some of the guys that helped pour the pavement were still alive.
An overpass with these unique H-shaped columns.
This looks like a concrete bridge, but it's actually a steel bridge. Those steel girders are just encased in concrete.
One old man was telling me that how he helped build the viaduct over the railroad tracks. They hand-formed it, poured it.
And apparently over-engineered it because drivers got 80 years out of it.
Back in 2002, the Kansas Department of Transportation came out to do their bridge inspection and came back with a rating of substandard, which means the county needed to tear it down. But instead of doing that, they spent the money to rehabilitate it, and now it looks pretty good.
But to be on the safe side, no big rigs.
Careful, the bridge might fall down, unless it's a bus. And they even remember to put in a place for people to walk. Maybe it's part of the original bridge, I don't know. But the important thing is, it's here right now.
On the other side of the bridge, this thing.
To celebrate 100 years, Dale and other people in Galena aren't just preserving the past, they're building something to preserve in the future.
The arch over 66, 100 foot wide, 1 foot for every year it was in existence.
Which I decided to measure by
97, 98, 99. I got 99.
It was a project born out of the Joplin tornado.
Remember the middle school in Joplin where the tornado ripped the roof off? Well, he tells me the steel for this comes from that middle school.
We look at it as a bridge between not just Missouri and Kansas, but a bridge from the past to the future.
He'd wanted to build it for a while, but the centennial coming up.
We had to get on it.
Bragging about how he got it done so fast, I asked what's the trick? He said, use private money. Makes sense because public money has a lot more eyes scrutinizing it. And you can kind of see here, too, the line in the asphalt between, I guess, public land, private land, public land, private land.
And it's not the only arch on private land.
Easy. The border of these 3 states, Missouri, Kansas, Oklahoma, there's a lot of lead and zinc in the ground. They started finding it in the 1840s, and then when the railroads showed up in the 1870s, they could start to haul it away, and the mining business really took off.
So when it came time to draw the route for US 66, well, of course you're going to go the long way and hit this important town in Kansas.
Galena, Kansas was the #1 place from 1850 to 1970 to mine lead and zinc in the world.
That smelter was responsible to make all of the lead used in shot in World War II.
But once all the soldiers returned home,
mining here took a real hit because the wartime subsidies ended. We pulled all the good stuff out of the ground, so the mines were pretty depleted. It was just cheaper to import lead and zinc from other countries. Add in 1970s environmental regulations that finally cleaned this mess up. It was good for the environment, it was bad for business here in town. Mining in Galena was over.
Galena is the story of from the ashes to the garden.
The locals decided to lean into Route 66 tourism hard.
There was just a group of people inside the city that said, no, we're not gonna fall by the wayside.
And it seems to have worked.
See, the occupancy through Galena is pretty good.
But this renaissance came too late for the interstate highway system. I-44 takes the efficient path of Joplin straight to Tulsa, cutting Galena out entirely. But nowadays, that might be an unintended benefit.
There's a seductive serenity to driving the country this way that makes a person think, well, why don't we all travel this way? I'll tell you why, because it wouldn't be serene if we all traveled this way.
And without the crush of traffic, Kansas is able to leave some history behind. Like this.
Designed in the 1910s, built in the 1920s for just $16,000. Imagine if all the freeway bridges we built now looked like that. But we don't build them that way. We build them like this one over here.
And had I-44 come through Kansas, we'd probably be looking at a lot more of these. The Brush Creek Bridge, or Rainbow Bridge, has genuinely special engineering.
Because the arch is doing all the work, these horizontal beams look like they're just floating in space, not doing anything.
Instead of cars pushing down on the bridge, their weight pulls on the arch, and all that force loads to the ground on each side. A really clever idea, but the bridge ends up too small.
17. Yep, your typical 18-foot wide Route 66, 9 feet each way. The sign says this was a one-way bridge, but back when it opened, it was not.
And that didn't bode well for trying to save it.
The Rainbow Bridge was one of several other Rainbow Bridges. They're all gone now, they're all replaced. You wouldn't even know where they were. And I know you wouldn't know where they were, because I just drove over right there where one of them used to be.
Like this one over Spring River Marsh.
Now see, this just isn't nearly as interesting as the Rainbow Bridge it replaced. In fact, this was built in 1991. 1990's charm just isn't quite the same as 1920's charm. But that's the patchwork nature of Route 66. One minute you're on something that feels like a freeway. Next minute you're just going down somebody's street. I mean, look at that, a literal fork in the road. Not a literal fork, but a literal fork in the road.
But it's those last few turns of the original Route 66 that'll get you.
Well, evidently that's wrong.
The highway now cuts diagonally, but if you go the original two sides of the triangle...
What is this, just alley behind the grocery store?
Original century-old pavement.
Oh, if that's original, I'd believe it.
And as abruptly as it starts, Kansas just ends.
You can even see the exact corner where one state's asphalt job ends and the other one picks up. It's a nice state line, but leaving Kansas, not quite as magical as entering it. But right at the sign, you're greeted with a license plate scanner? What kind of crime-ridden state is this place?
On the next Road Guy Rob.
It's amazing it's still here.
Why a state tight with money?
They were drilling for oil and gas here on the Capitol grounds.
You're suddenly happy to open their wallets.
This is not nostalgic.
The state where Route 66 is now part of daily life.
I'm giving you a gift no woman has. Happy anniversary. I'm going to Miami. Bienvenido a Miami.
Apparently that's wrong.